The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched out like a crystal cathedral beneath the stars. Thousands of seats rose in curved tiers around a central platform where ambassadors from across the galaxy gathered to decide the fate of entire worlds. Today, those seats held beings that had ruled space for millions of years. Ambassador Lee Minho walked slowly toward the speaking platform at the center of the vast chamber. His simple black suit looked plain next to the elaborate robes and ceremonial armor worn by the alien delegates around him. At 45 years old, he had spent his entire career preparing for this moment. Every word he would speak had been carefully chosen. Every gesture had been practiced. The future of humanity depended on what happened in the next hour. Above him, the Velthari representatives sat in their silver chairs. Their forearms moved in graceful patterns as they communicated through hand signals. Their metallic skin caught the light from the artificial stars that decorated the ceiling. They had been spacefaring for over 2 million years and controlled the richest trading routes in the galaxy. To his right, the ancient Mordek floated in transparent spheres filled with glowing gas. Their jellyfish-like bodies pulsed with soft lights that changed color as they thought. They were the keepers of galactic history and had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. When they spoke, it was through patterns of light that were translated into words by the chamber's computers. The Kethmar sat directly across from the human delegation. They looked like giant insects with hard shells covering their bodies. Their warriors had conquered hundreds of worlds through superior tactics and unbreakable discipline. Their general Vorthak watched Minho with eyes like black diamonds, his mandibles clicking in what humans had learned was their version of laughter. High Counselor Zethris of the Velthari called the session to order. Her voice carried easily through the vast space, translated instantly into every language known to the galaxy. The species known as humanity requests membership in the Galactic Alliance. Ambassador Lee Minho will present their case. Minho stepped up to the speaking platform. The device scanned his body and projected his voice so everyone could hear him clearly. He looked up at the thousands of alien faces staring down at him. Some showed curiosity. Most showed boredom. A few showed open contempt. Honored members of the council, Minho began, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. Humanity comes before you not as conquerors or supplicants, but as fellow beings who seek to join the community of spacefaring civilizations. A ripple of clicking sounds came from the Kethmar section. Vorthak leaned forward in his seat. Human, he said, his voice like grinding stone. Your species achieved faster than light travel only 50 years ago. We were building star bridges when your world was still covered in ice. Minho nodded respectfully. That is true, General, but in those 50 years, we have established colonies on 12 worlds and made contact with 18 different species. We learn quickly and adapt to new situations. Adaptation, said Zethris with a sound that might have been laughter. Child, we have watched species like yours for eons. You are violent and unpredictable. Your history is filled with wars against your own kind. What could you possibly offer to civilizations that have achieved perfect peace and order? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Minho had expected this. Every briefing had warned him that the aliens saw humans as barbarians who fought among themselves instead of working together like proper civilized beings. We offer perspective, Minho replied. We offer the view of those who have struggled and survived. We offer the creativity that comes from facing impossible challenges and finding new solutions. The Mordek spokesperson, Elder Lumthara, pulsed with skeptical orange light. Young species often speak of their uniqueness, yet in our vast experience, all developing civilizations follow predictable patterns. You will mature beyond your current violent nature, or you will destroy yourselves. Either way, you are not ready for membership in our alliance. Minho felt the weight of disappointment settling over the human delegation behind him. Captain Park, G1 of the exploration ship Soul's Pride sat in the observer section, her face carefully neutral. Dr. Choi Minji, Earth's leading expert on alien cultures, took notes on a small device. They had all known this might happen, but hope was hard to abandon. We understand your concerns, Minho said carefully. But consider this. Every species in this chamber was once young and untested. Someone gave you a chance to prove yourselves. Indeed, Zethris replied coldly, and we proved ourselves through technological advancement, cultural maturity, and military strength. Your species has none of these qualities at a level worthy of our attention. General Vorthak stood up, his massive form casting a shadow across the platform. Humans possess primitive weapons, limited industrial capacity, and a fractured political system. Your largest ships are smaller than our escort vessels. Your most advanced computers are less capable than our children's toys. What use could such a weak species be to the Alliance? The words stung because they contained truth. Human technology was indeed centuries behind the alien standard. Earth's population of 8 billion seemed tiny compared to the Velthari Empire's trillion citizens spread across 1,000 worlds. The human military, while competent by Earth standards, looked pathetic next to the Kethmar war machine. Minho straightened his shoulders. We do not claim to be the strongest or the most advanced, but strength and advancement are not the only qualities that matter. We offer loyalty, determination, and the ability to think differently about problems that seem impossible to solve. Pretty words, said Vorthak dismissively. But the galaxy is not a place for pretty words. It is a place of hard realities. The strong survive and prosper. The weak serve or perish. Humans are weak. The vote, when it came, was unanimous. 47 alien species voted against human membership. 0 voted in favor. The few abstentions came from minor species who feared offending the major powers. As Minho gathered his materials to leave, Zethris delivered the final insult. Perhaps in a few thousand years, when your species has matured beyond its current primitive state, you may petition us again. Until then, humanity will remain under observation but outside our alliance. Minho bowed politely, as Earth's diplomatic protocols required. We are disappointed but not surprised by your decision. Thank you for your time and consideration. He turned to leave the platform, but the ancient Mordek elder Lumthara pulsed with what seemed like genuine curiosity. Before you go, human, answer this. What would your species do if faced with a threat too powerful to defeat through conventional means? Minho paused at the edge of the platform. We would find an unconventional means, Elder. That is what humans do when faced with the impossible. The answer seemed to amuse several council members. Soft laughter echoed from the Velthari section. Even some of the serious Mordek flickered with light patterns that indicated humor. As Minho walked toward the exit, the chamber's massive doors began to open. Then the emergency alarm started screaming. Red lights flashed throughout the crystal hall. The gentle background hum of the station's systems changed to an urgent whine. Holographic displays materialized in the air above the council platform, showing long-range sensor readings from the galaxy's outer rim. The readings showed something that made even the ancient Mordek recoil in their floating spheres. The proud Velthari stopped their graceful hand-talking and stared in silence. The mighty Kethmar warriors gripped their weapons instinctively. Minho stopped walking and turned back toward the platform. Captain Park Jiwon was already on her feet, her hand moving to the communication device at her belt. Dr. Choi Minji stared at the holographic displays with growing horror. High Counselor Zethris spoke in a voice that had lost all its earlier arrogance. Alert all fleet commands. Evacuate non-essential personnel from border systems, and send word to the deepest archives. She paused, her silver skin flickering with patterns of fear. The Devourers have returned. The word sent a chill through every being in the chamber. Even humans who had only learned about the Devourers from ancient galactic records understood what this meant. 3 million years ago, something had come from beyond the galaxy and consumed entire civilizations before vanishing without explanation. The survivors had built the current galactic order partly in hope that such a threat would never return. That hope had just died. Minho looked up at the chaos erupting in the council chamber and felt a strange calm settle over him. Minutes ago, these beings had dismissed humanity as too weak and primitive to matter. Now they faced a threat that their advanced technology and ancient wisdom could not handle. He activated his communication device and spoke quietly to Captain Park. "Jiwan, get our ships ready and send word to Earth. Tell them we might be needed after all." The holographic displays filled the council chamber with images that defied belief. Ships stretched across the darkness of space in formations so vast they covered entire star systems. Each vessel was the size of a small moon, their hulls black as the void between galaxies. They moved with perfect coordination, like a single organism spread across impossible distances. Captain Park Jiwan stood in the human observation section, her hands flying over her portable scanner as she analyzed the incoming data. Her ship, the Soul's Pride, had been conducting routine surveys near the galactic rim when her sensors picked up the first energy signatures. She had immediately transmitted the readings to both Earth and the Galactic Council, but seeing the full scope of the threat displayed here made her stomach turn cold. "By the ancient stars," whispered Elder Lumthara, her jellyfish-like body pulsing with rapid flashes of orange and red light. "The energy patterns match the archived records perfectly. These are definitely the Devourers." High Counselor Zethris had lost all of her earlier composure. Her forearms trembled as she manipulated, the holographic controls zooming in on different sections of the approaching fleet. "How many ships are there?" she asked, though her voice suggested she was afraid to hear the answer. Dr. Choi Minji, sitting beside Captain Park, was running calculations on her own device. She had spent years studying the fragmentary records left by civilizations that had encountered the Devourers 3 million years ago. The numbers she was seeing made no sense. "At least 10,000 capital ships," she said quietly. "Maybe 20,000. The formation is so large that our long-range sensors cannot map the edges." General Vorthok of the Kethmar stood up abruptly, his chitinous armor clattering. "Impossible. No fleet could be that large. The resources required to build and maintain such a force would drain entire galaxies." "The Devourers do not build," said Lumthara, her light patterns now deep purple with ancient fear. "They consume. They take the resources of conquered worlds and turn them into more ships, more weapons, more soldiers. Every victory makes them stronger." The main display shifted to show tactical analysis prepared by the Alliance's military computers. The results were devastating. The Devourer fleet possessed energy weapons capable of cracking planets in half. Their smaller ships carried bioweapons that could consume all life on a world in days. Most terrifying of all, they had technology that seemed to bend space and time itself, allowing them to appear anywhere without warning. Admiral Kethvor, the Alliance's supreme military commander, materialized as a hologram in the center of the chamber. His scarred face showed the strain of the past few hours. "Honored Council, I have consulted with every military expert in the Alliance. Our combined fleets number approximately 3,000 ships. Our best weapons cannot penetrate Devourer shields. Our fastest ships cannot outrun their pursuit craft." The silence that followed was deafening. These were civilizations that had never known defeat. The Velthari had conquered through superior technology. The Kethmar had won through military might. The Mordek had survived through ancient wisdom. Now all three advantages seemed useless against an enemy that surpassed them in every category. "What are our options?" asked Counselor Thekmar of the insectoid Zephani species. "Evacuation," Admiral Kethvor replied grimly. "We estimate the Devourer advance will reach our outer colonies in 6 standard days. Core worlds will fall within 2 weeks. We have enough transport capacity to save perhaps 10% of our total population." The word evacuation sent shockwaves through the chamber. Some species began chattering frantically in their native languages. Others sat in stunned silence. The Velthari delegation huddled together, their silver skin flickering with rapid communication patterns. Ambassador Minho watched this unfold with growing amazement. These were the same beings who had dismissed humanity as too primitive and weak to matter. Now they were talking about abandoning their homes and fleeing to distant galaxies. Captain Park leaned over to whisper in his ear, "Sir, I'm receiving messages from the human fleet. Admiral Kim Tae-hyun wants to know if we should begin evacuation procedures for our colonies." Minho considered this. The human colonies were small and lightly defended. If the Galactic Alliance with all its advanced technology could not stand against the Devourers, what hope did humanity have? But something about the situation bothered him. The aliens were reacting with panic and despair, but they had not actually tried to fight yet. "Tell the Admiral to prepare our forces, but wait for further orders," Minho said quietly. On the main platform, the debate continued. Elder Lumthara was displaying historical records from the last Devourer invasion. The ancient texts spoke of civilizations that had tried to fight and been completely destroyed, worlds stripped of all life, entire species erased from existence. The few survivors had hidden in the deepest reaches of space until the Devourers mysteriously withdrew. "We cannot make the same mistake our ancestors made," declared Zethris. "They tried to fight and were annihilated. We must preserve what we can and hope the Devourers will leave again when they have taken what they want." "And what if they do not leave this time?" asked Vorthak. "What if they decide to consume the entire galaxy?" The question hung in the air without an answer. The Mordeck pulsed with helpless blue light. The Velthari silver skin dimmed with despair. Even the proud Kethmar warriors seemed to shrink in their seats. Dr. Choi Minji stood up suddenly in the human section. "May I speak?" she called out. The request was so unexpected that several alien delegates turned to stare at her. Humans were not members of the Alliance and had no speaking rights in the Council. Zethris looked irritated. The human delegation was permitted to observe as a courtesy. "You have no voice in these proceedings." "I understand," Dr. Choi said calmly. "But I have been studying the historical records of the last Devourer invasion. There may be details you have overlooked." "Impossible," said Lumthara, her lights flashing with offended pride. "The Mordeck have preserved every fragment of information from that time. We have studied these records for 3 million years." Dr. Choi activated her portable display and projected her analysis into the chamber's system. "The records show that the civilizations that fought the Devourers were indeed destroyed. But look at how they fought. Every single species used the same basic strategy: gather their fleets, meet the enemy in open battle, and try to destroy them through superior firepower." The alien delegates studied her display with growing interest despite themselves. She was right. Every historical battle had followed the same pattern. "Your point being?" asked Vorthak. "My point is that no one tried anything different. They all fought the same way and they all lost the same way. Maybe the problem was not that the Devourers were too strong to defeat. Maybe the problem was that everyone tried to defeat them in the wrong way." The suggestion caused an uproar in the chamber. The idea that ancient civilizations might have failed because of tactical errors rather than enemy superiority was deeply offensive to many delegates. "Ridiculous," snapped Zethris. "Those civilizations were far more advanced than anything existing today. If they could not defeat the Devourers, no one can." Ambassador Minho stepped forward. "High Counselor, may I make a request?" "You have already been denied membership," she replied coldly. "What more could you want? Give us 48 hours. The chamber fell completely silent. Even the constant background hum of the station's systems seemed to pause. 48 hours for what? Asked Lumthara. To study the threat and propose alternatives to evacuation. The laughter that erupted from the alien delegates was not kind. The Velthari silver skin flashed with amused patterns. The Kethmar clicked their mandibles in harsh rhythms. Even the usually dignified Mordeck pulsed with colors that indicated they found the request absurd. "Human," said Vorthak, rising to his full intimidating height. "Your entire species could not build a single ship capable of surviving 1 minute against a Devourer destroyer. Your weapons could not scratch their shields. Your tactics are based on primitive planetary warfare. What could you possibly accomplish in 48 hours that the greatest minds in the galaxy cannot achieve?" Minho met the general's black diamond eyes without flinching. "Perhaps nothing. But if evacuation is the only option, then 48 hours will not change that outcome. However, if there is another way, would it not be worth the time to explore it?" Admiral Kethvor's hologram flickered as he processed new information. "High Counselor, the Devourer fleet has begun accelerating. They will reach our outer defense perimeters in 5 days, not 6 as previously calculated. The news sent fresh waves of panic through the chamber. Several minor species began broadcasting evacuation orders to their home worlds. The great Velthari, trading houses started transferring their wealth to hidden accounts in distant galaxies. Zethris looked down at the human ambassador with something that might have been pity. Very well, human. You have 48 hours. But do not think this changes anything. When your time is up, the evacuation will begin whether you have found a solution or not. Minho bowed formally. Thank you, High Counselor. That is all we ask. As the emergency session broke up, delegates rushed to contact their home governments and prepare for the greatest crisis in galactic history. While the Galactic Alliance prepared for evacuation, Earth responded with typical human stubbornness. Within 6 hours of receiving Ambassador Minho's message, every major military leader on the planet was connected through secure channels in the largest war council in human history. Admiral Kim Tae-hyun sat in the command center deep beneath Seoul, surrounded by screens showing data streams from across human space. At 53, he had risen through the ranks by solving problems other people declared impossible. His gray hair and lined face showed the stress of commanding humanity's small but growing space fleet. Let me understand this correctly, said General Martinez from the American Space Command. An alien fleet that destroyed advanced civilizations 3 million years ago is heading toward us, and the entire galaxy has decided to run away? That is correct, replied Admiral Kim, and we have 46 hours to find a solution that thousands of alien experts believe does not exist. Colonel Shin Yeji, head of Special Operations, leaned forward in her chair. What do we know about how these devourers fight? Dr. Choi Minji's image appeared on the main screen from the Galactic Council station. According to the historical records, they use overwhelming force and advanced technology. Their standard tactic is to surround a system with massive fleets and destroy all resistance through superior firepower. So they fight like the aliens do, observed Commander Petrov from the Russian Deep Space Navy. Big ships, big guns, big formations. Exactly, said Dr. Choi. Every civilization that fought them tried to match their strength with strength, fleet against fleet, weapon against weapon, and they all lost. Engineer Yoon Seokjin pulled up technical specifications on his screen. He had spent the last 20 years designing human spacecraft that could compete with alien technology, despite limited resources. Their ships are huge, bigger than anything we have ever built. But big ships have big problems. Explain, said Admiral Kim. They require massive amounts of energy to move and operate. They have enormous sensor arrays that can detect large objects from great distances, but sensors designed to track capital ships might miss smaller targets, and energy systems that powerful must have vulnerable points. Captain Lee Dong-hae, veteran of the Korean Space Force, studied the tactical displays. We cannot fight them the way the aliens want to fight. We do not have enough ships or powerful enough weapons, but we do not have to fight them that way. What are you suggesting? Asked Colonel Shin. Guerrilla warfare. Hit-and-run tactics. Make them chase us while we strike at their weak points. Lee Dong-hae had studied military history extensively and knew that smaller forces had defeated larger ones throughout human history when they refused to fight on their enemies' terms. Dr. Choi transmitted new data from her analysis of the Devourer fleet. I found something interesting. Their bioweapons show adaptation patterns. They learn from each encounter and develop countermeasures for the tactics used against them. That is probably why conventional military responses failed so completely. General Martinez frowned. If they adapt to our tactics, how do we maintain any advantage? By constantly changing our tactics, replied Engineer Yoon. We do not give them time to adapt. We hit them in ways they have never seen before, then change to completely different methods before they can respond. The discussion continued for hours as military minds from every human nation contributed ideas. The plan that emerged was ambitious, beyond anything humans had ever attempted. Instead of gathering their forces into a single fleet that could be destroyed in one battle, they would scatter their ships across the galaxy in small, independent groups. Admiral Kim outlined the strategy. Each group will have a specific target: communication arrays, supply ships, command vessels, energy distribution nodes. We will not try to destroy their entire fleet. We will try to disrupt their coordination and reduce their effectiveness. It is still a suicide mission, pointed out Commander Petrov grimly. Our ships are not designed for stealth operations against advanced alien technology. Then we modify them, said Engineer Yoon. We strip out everything non-essential. We coat the hulls with sensor-absorbing materials. We reduce power output to minimum levels. We make our ships invisible to sensors designed to track large, powerful vessels. Colonel Shin began organizing the special operations aspects of the mission. We will need boarding teams capable of infiltrating alien ships. We will need sabotage experts who can plant explosives in critical systems. We will need communications specialists who can hack their networks. Do we even know if our equipment will work on their technology? Asked Captain Park from the council station. Dr. Choi had been studying this question. Human technology is less advanced but more versatile than alien systems. Our computers use different programming languages and operate on different principles. That might actually be an advantage. Their defensive systems may not recognize our intrusion attempts because they are looking for more sophisticated attacks. The technical discussion grew intense as engineers and scientists worked out the details. Human ships would need to be completely rebuilt in less than 2 days. Weapons would need to be modified to target specific alien systems. Most importantly, everything would need to be designed for one-way missions. We are asking our people to sacrifice themselves, said General Martinez bluntly. We should be honest about that. Admiral Kim nodded grimly. Yes, most of our strike teams will not survive their missions, but if we succeed, we might buy the galaxy time to organize a real defense. And if we fail? Asked Commander Petrov. Then humanity dies fighting instead of running, replied Colonel Shin. There are worse fates. The military leaders worked through the night, dividing responsibilities and coordinating with shipyards across human space. Captain Lee Donghae took command of the stealth modifications. Engineer Yoon led the technical teams designing new weapons and infiltration tools. Colonel Shin organized training programs for the special operations units. Meanwhile, at the Galactic Council Station, the alien response was very different. Ambassador Minho watched as species after species announced their evacuation plans. The Yao Velthari were loading their treasure ships with cultural artifacts and fleeing toward the galactic edge. The Mordek had begun the process of uploading their consciousness to deep space storage devices that could survive the destruction of their physical forms. Even the mighty Kethmar warriors were preparing to abandon their fortress worlds. General Forthak stood before the council explaining his strategic withdrawal to preserve Alliance military assets for some future counterattack. We will establish defensive positions in the Andromeda Galaxy, he declared. When the Devourers finish consuming this galaxy and move on, we can return and rebuild. The plan was logical and reasonable. It would save lives and preserve the advanced civilizations that had taken millions of years to develop. But it also meant abandoning billions of beings on worlds that could not be evacuated in time. Dr. Choi found Ambassador Minho in the human quarters after the council session. The aliens are not even going to try to fight, she said with disbelief. They are just going to run away and let the Devourers take everything. Can you blame them? Minho replied. Look at the numbers. The Devourers have overwhelming superiority in every measurable category. A rational analysis suggests that resistance is futile. But you do not sound convinced. Minho walked to the window that looked out at the stars. I keep thinking about something General Vorthak said earlier. He asked what use a weak species could be to the Alliance. Maybe he was asking the wrong question. What do you mean? Maybe the question should be, what can a species do when it has nothing left to lose? The communication device on Minho's desk chirped with an incoming message from Earth. Admiral Kim's face appeared on the screen, looking tired but determined. Ambassador, we have a plan. It is dangerous and probably impossible, but it is a plan. Tell me. We are going to do what humans do best. We are going to fight dirty. Behind the Admiral, Minho could see the command center buzzing with activity. Officers from every human military tradition worked side by side. Korean tactical specialists shared screens with American technicians. Russian strategists debated with European engineers. The sight filled him with unexpected pride. "What do you need from us?" Minho asked. "Information. Everything the aliens know about Devourer technology, tactics, and weaknesses. Even details they think are unimportant might be useful to us." Dr. Choi stepped into view of the camera. "I have been copying all the historical data I can access. But Admiral, you should know that every civilization that tried to fight these things was more advanced than we are." Admiral Kim smiled grimly. "Dr. Choi, every civilization that fought them tried to win through superior technology and conventional tactics. We are going to try something they never considered, which is, we are going to cheat." The communication ended, leaving Minho and Dr. Choi alone with their thoughts. Outside the window, they could see alien ships beginning to leave the station as various species started their evacuation procedures. "Do you think we have any chance?" asked Dr. Choi. Minho considered the question carefully. By every logical measure, humanity was about to attempt something that was not just dangerous but completely impossible. They had fewer ships, weaker weapons, and the first Devourer ships reached the outer colonies exactly when Admiral Kethvor had predicted. The fortress world of Kethmar Prime, defended by weapons that could vaporize asteroids and shields that had never been penetrated, lasted 6 hours before going silent. The ancient knowledge vaults of Mordek Central, protected by technology that bent space around them, were consumed in less than 4. Commander Park Soo-young watched the destruction reports from the bridge of her modified frigate, the Busan Runner. Around her, the ship hummed with barely contained energy as her crew made final preparations for their mission. Her vessel was one of 50 human ships scattered throughout the galaxy, each one heading toward a different target in the Devourer fleet. "Captain, we are approaching the target coordinates," reported Lieutenant Kim Hyunwoo from the navigation station. At 26, he was young for such a dangerous mission, but his skills with stealth systems were unmatched in the human fleet. Through the bridge windows, they could see the Devourer staging area. Hundreds of massive ships floated in perfect formation around a captured mining world. The planet's surface glowed with the heat of industrial extraction as automated systems stripped away its resources to fuel the invasion fleet. "Readings, Lieutenant." "Song?" asked Commander Park. Lieutenant Song Nari looked up from her sensor station. "The ships are exactly as described in the intelligence reports. Each one is approximately 12 kilometers long and heavily armored. Energy output suggests they could destroy our entire ship with a single weapons burst. And their sensors? Focused on detecting large objects and high-energy signatures. Our stealth modifications are working. We appear to be just another piece of space debris." The modifications engineer Yoon Seokjin had designed were radical by human standards. The Busan Runner's hull was coated with materials that absorbed sensor beams instead of reflecting them. The ship's reactor was running at barely 10% power, producing almost no detectable energy signature. Life support was reduced to minimum levels, making the interior cold and uncomfortable but nearly invisible to alien detection systems. "Dr. Jang, are you ready?" Commander Park asked. Dr. Jang Woo-jin looked up from his psychological analysis station. He was not a military officer, but a specialist in alien behavior patterns. His job was to predict how the Devourers would respond to human tactics. Based on the historical records, they have never encountered stealth operations or sabotage attacks. Their defensive programming may not recognize these types of threats. The plan was insane by any reasonable standard. Instead of fighting the Devourer ships directly, the humans would sneak aboard them and plant quantum viruses in their computer systems. The viruses would not destroy the ships immediately, but would feed false information to their tactical networks, causing confusion and coordination failures. "Beginning approach to the command vessel," reported Lieutenant Kim. "Docking bay is opening on schedule." The Devourers, confident in their overwhelming superiority, had not even bothered to close their docking bays. They had no experience with enemies that would attempt infiltration rather than direct assault. Sergeant Kim Hyunwoo led the boarding team through the alien ship's corridors. The interior was vast beyond human comprehension, with ceilings that disappeared into darkness above them. Strange, organic-looking technology covered the walls, pulsing with bioelectric energy. "Remember," he whispered into his communicator, "we are not here to fight. We are here to plant the virus and leave. Avoid contact with any Devourer crew members." The team moved through the ship like ghosts, using human-developed stealth techniques that the aliens had never encountered. They placed quantum virus devices at key points throughout the command network, each one designed to activate after they had safely escaped. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, other human teams were conducting similar operations. Captain Bei Sunho infiltrated a communications relay station and planted jammers that would disrupt Devourer coordination signals. Lieutenant Lim Ji-young led a team that sabotaged fuel processing facilities, contaminating the energy supplies that powered the massive ships. The operations were succeeding beyond anyone's expectations. The Devourers, accustomed to enemies that announced their presence with massive energy signatures and formal battle formations, simply did not notice the tiny human infiltration teams. But success came at a terrible cost. Commander O. Minsik's team was discovered while planting explosives in a weapon manufacturing facility. Rather than surrender and risk revealing human tactics, they detonated their charges early, destroying themselves along with a significant portion of the facility. Captain Ryu Jinwoo's ship was caught by a patrol while attempting to escape after a successful sabotage mission. His final transmission was brief. "Mission accomplished. Tell Earth we made them notice us." The quantum viruses began activating after 24 hours. Devourer command ships started receiving false sensor data that showed human fleets where none existed. Their tactical computers calculated threat responses to phantom enemies, dividing their forces and creating gaps in their formations. Engineer Yoon Seokjin monitored the results from Earth's command center. "It is working," he reported with amazement. "Their coordination is breaking down. Ships are moving to defensive positions against attacks that are not happening." "But for how long?" asked Admiral Kim. Dr. Choi said they adapt quickly to new threats. The answer came sooner than expected. The Devourers began analyzing the false data and identifying the patterns. Their adaptation protocols started developing countermeasures for the quantum viruses. Within 36 hours, they had begun purging their systems and restoring proper communication networks. "They are learning," reported Dr. Jang from his analysis station. "We have perhaps 12 more hours before they completely counter our tactics." Admiral Kim studied the tactical displays showing Devourer fleet movements. The confusion had bought valuable time and created opportunities, but the window was closing fast. Then we switched to Phase 2. Phase 2 was even more desperate than the infiltration missions. Human ships would conduct direct hit-and-run attacks on Devourer formations, using speed and unpredictability instead of stealth. The goal was not to destroy the enemy ships, but to force them into defensive positions that would slow their advance. Captain Park Ji-won led the first wave in the Soul's Pride. Her ship darted between massive Devourer vessels like a minnow swimming between whales, firing targeted bursts at communication arrays and sensor clusters before disappearing into nearby asteroid fields. The Devourer's response was swift and devastating. Their weapons could indeed vaporize human ships with single shots, but their targeting systems were designed for large, predictable targets moving in formation. Human pilots flying erratic patterns at maximum speed proved surprisingly difficult to hit. "This is insane," transmitted Captain Won Ji-hoon as he led his squadron through a suicidal attack run on a Devourer battleship. "We are like insects trying to sting a giant." "Yes," replied Captain Park, "but enough insect stings can kill a giant." The human attacks were causing damage far beyond what their small ships should have been capable of inflicting. By targeting specific systems instead of trying to destroy entire vessels, they were creating cascading failures throughout the Devourer fleet. Dr. Jang made a crucial discovery while analyzing enemy behavior patterns. "The Devourers operate as a hive mind," he reported. "They share information instantly across their entire fleet. But that also means that false information spreads just as quickly." Colonel Shin immediately saw the implications. If we can feed them the right kind of false data, we can turn their greatest strength into a weakness. The new phase of operations focused on psychological warfare rather than physical destruction. Human teams began broadcasting fake emergency signals that suggested massive fleet movements in empty sectors. They created false energy signatures that made the Devourers believe they were facing coordinated attacks from multiple directions. The cumulative effect was exactly what Dr. Zhang had predicted. The Devourer hive mind began receiving contradictory information from multiple sources. Their response protocols, designed for logical enemy behavior, started issuing conflicting orders as they tried to respond to threats that existed only in their corrupted data networks. Lieutenant Commander Han Deho, monitoring communications from his hidden observation post, watched in amazement as Devourer ships began firing on each other. "They are attacking their own forces," he reported. "The false data is causing friendly fire incidents throughout their formation." But the Devourers were learning from these mistakes too. Their adaptation protocols began filtering out obviously false information and requiring verification for tactical data. The window for psychological warfare was closing just as quickly as the infiltration opportunity had. "We need something new," said Admiral Kim during an emergency strategy session. "They adapt to everything we try within hours." Engineer Yoon had been working on this problem. "What if we do not try to fool their computers? What if we attack their decision-making process directly?" "How?" "We give them too many real threats to process effectively. We force them to divide their attention between so many actual attacks that they cannot respond efficiently to any of them." The final phase required every remaining human ship in the galaxy. Ambassador Lee Minho stood once again before the Galactic Council, but everything had changed. The crystal chamber that had once echoed with dismissive laughter now buzzed with urgent conversations in dozens of alien languages. The delegates, who had mocked humanity's weakness, now studied tactical displays showing impossible human victories against the Devourer fleet. High Counselor Zethris looked exhausted. Her silver skin had lost its usual bright luster, and her forearms moved with nervous energy as she manipulated the holographic controls. "Ambassador Minho, your species has accomplished something we believed impossible. The Devourer advance has been halted for the first time in recorded history." "Temporarily halted," Minho corrected. "Our intelligence indicates they are adapting to our tactics faster than we anticipated. We estimate 48 hours before they overcome our disruption efforts and resume their advance." The honesty of his assessment sent worried murmurs through the chamber. General Vorthak leaned forward in his seat, his black diamond eyes fixed on Minho. "Your species has lost over 60% of its space fleet in these operations. How can you possibly maintain such an effort?" "We cannot," Minho replied simply. "Not alone." General Kang Jisoo materialized as a hologram beside the speaking platform. The commander of human space forces looked like she had not slept in days. Her uniform was rumpled and her gray hair was pulled back in a simple knot, but her voice was clear and strong. "Honored delegates," she began. "The Devourer fleet consists of approximately 18,000 capital ships supported by countless smaller vessels. Humanity has managed to disrupt their coordination using tactics they have never encountered before. But disruption is not defeat." She activated a tactical display that filled the air above the platform. The image showed the current positions of Devourer forces throughout the galaxy. Red indicators marked areas where human attacks had forced them into defensive formations. Yellow zones showed where their advance had slowed due to communication disruptions. "The enemy is learning from each encounter," General Kang continued. "They are developing countermeasures for our stealth technology. They are reinforcing their communication networks against our virus attacks. They are adapting their formations to reduce vulnerability to hit-and-run tactics." Elder Lumthara pulsed with worried orange light. "Then your efforts have only delayed the inevitable." "Perhaps," agreed General Kang, "unless we change the nature of the conflict entirely." Admiral Kim Tae-hyun appeared as a second hologram, carrying a datapad filled with technical specifications. "We have analyzed the Devourer technology captured during our infiltration missions. Their ships are incredibly advanced, but they are designed for a specific type of warfare, massive fleet engagements where superior technology guarantees victory. He gestured to the tactical display, highlighting weak points in the Devourer formations. Their doctrine assumes that enemies will gather their forces and attack in predictable patterns. They have never faced an opponent that refuses to follow those patterns. "What are you proposing?" asked Zethris. General Kang stepped forward. "A coordinated campaign using the combined forces of every Alliance species, but fighting according to human tactical doctrine instead of traditional galactic warfare." The suggestion caused an immediate uproar. The Kethmar delegation rose to their feet, clicking their mandibles in outrage. Several Velthari began flashing angry silver patterns. The idea that their advanced militaries should follow tactics developed by primitive humans was deeply insulting. "Impossible," declared Vorthak. "Kethmar warriors have perfected the art of war over millions of years. We will not subordinate ourselves to the commands of children who have barely learned to leave their homeworld." Admiral Kim activated his own display, showing detailed analysis of recent Devourer battles. "General Vorthak, your warriors are magnificent fighters, but look at what happened when they met the Devourers using traditional tactics." The display showed the destruction of Kethmar Prime in horrifying detail. The planet's mighty defenders had fought exactly as their training dictated. Disciplined formations, coordinated fire patterns, and strategic withdrawal when overwhelmed. The Devourers had countered each move perfectly and destroyed the entire defense force without taking significant casualties. "Now look at this," Admiral Kim continued, switching to footage from human operations. Lieutenant Park Minsu's squadron attacking a Devourer supply convoy. The video showed human ships moving in seemingly random patterns, attacking from unexpected angles, and retreating through routes that made no tactical sense. The Devourers had responded with confusion, their perfect coordination disrupted by enemy behavior that violated every principle of logical warfare. "Your tactics are effective," admitted Vorthak grudgingly, "but they are also chaotic and dangerous. How can we coordinate the actions of multiple species using methods that appear to have no structure?" Colonel Shin Yeji, joining the holographic conference from her command ship, answered the question. "Structure exists, but it is flexible structure. Each unit operates independently within general mission parameters. This prevents the enemy from predicting our movements or disrupting our coordination through targeted attacks." Dr. Choi Minji stepped forward from the human delegation area. "General, may I show you something from our historical archives?" Vorthak nodded reluctantly. Dr. Choi activated a display showing ancient battles from Earth's history. These are examples of how smaller, less equipped forces defeated larger, more powerful enemies through unconventional tactics. The pattern has repeated throughout human history. She showed battles where outnumbered armies had won through superior mobility, better intelligence, and willingness to take risks that their enemies considered too dangerous or dishonorable to attempt. "Humans fight differently because we have always been the smaller force," explained Dr. Choi. "We learn to win through creativity rather than strength." Elder Lumthara pulsed with thoughtful blue light. "The psychological analysis is intriguing, but can such methods work on a galactic scale?" General Kang smiled grimly. "They already are working. The question is whether we can expand them before the Devourers finish adapting." She activated a new display showing proposed battle plans that incorporated forces from every Alliance species. Velthari ships with their advanced sensors would serve as intelligence gatherers, feeding target information to human strike teams. Mordeck vessels with their powerful computers would coordinate communication networks using human-designed protocols that the Devourers could not easily hack. Kethmar warriors would conduct boarding operations using human-developed infiltration techniques. "Each species contributes what they do best," explained Admiral Kim. "But the overall strategy follows human doctrine. Hit them where they are weak, avoid their strengths, and never give them a chance to predict what we will do next." The debate that followed was intense. The proud alien civilizations struggled with the concept of following leadership from a species they had dismissed as insignificant. But the alternative was complete annihilation. Captain Won Jahoon, monitoring long-range sensors from his patrol ship, transmitted an urgent message that ended the debate. Council, I am detecting massive energy buildups in the Devourer fleet. They are preparing for a final advance on the core worlds. Estimated time to arrival, 72 hours. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The evacuation fleets had not yet reached safe distances. Billions of beings on core. Worlds could not be moved in time. This was the moment of final decision. Zethris looked around the chamber at her fellow council members. The Velthari were conferring rapidly through their hand signals. The Mordek pulsed with rapid light patterns as they debated. Even the proud, Kethmar, were clicking their mandibles in urgent discussion. Very well, she said finally. The Galactic Alliance accepts human tactical leadership for the defense of our civilization. General Kang, Admiral Kim, what do you need from us? General Kang did not hesitate. Every ship you can spare, operating in independent squadrons of mixed species. Velthari sensors paired with human stealth technology. Mordek computational power running human tactical programs. Kethmar warriors trained in human boarding techniques. And the overall strategy? Asked Vorthak. Admiral Kim's smile was cold and determined. We are going to teach the Devourers what happens when they threaten something humans care about. As the council session ended, delegates rushed to contact their home fleets and redirect evacuation ships back toward the battle zones. The Great Retreat was ending. The galaxy was finally ready to fight back. Commander Park Soo-young received new orders as her ship prepared for the next phase of operations. Instead of operating alone, she would now coordinate with a mixed squadron including Velthari reconnaissance ships and Kethmar assault vessels. It will be strange, commented Lieutenant Song Nari, working with the same aliens who refused to acknowledge our existence a few days ago. Desperate times make for unlikely allies, replied Commander Park. The important thing is that they are finally willing to fight. As human and alien forces began coordinating their efforts across the galaxy, the Devourer fleet resumed its advance toward the core worlds. But this time, they would not face a galaxy of separate species fighting, according to predictable patterns.